In this episode, let's take a look at a new monitor from AndyCine called the A6. It's a 5.7-inch monitor. You can flip it to the front of the camera or the back. Let's take a look. First of all, the top line features for the A6 are pretty interesting, actually. It's a 5.7-inch HD screen, so it's 1920 by 1080, and it can take a 4K signal from your camera via HDMI up to 30 frames per second. Now, the A6 is powered by the Sony NP-F style batteries, but it can also power some cameras, namely mirrorless cameras. So I have a Panasonic GH5, for example. It also can work with most of the Sony Alpha series. You will need an additional battery adapter to make that work, and I'll put a link down below for each of those. Probably the top line feature, though, is the fact that you can flip this screen to the front of the camera or to the back with this interesting included bracket. So that is really, for me, kind of one of the big selling points of this particular monitor. Makes it a lot easier to do vlog-style shooting or YouTube talking head types of things. Let's run through the list of pros here. First of all, has to be at the top of the list is the price. The price on this is $180 US at the time of launch, and that seems like a lot of value for what you're getting. Now, that also puts it into a certain category. This is not necessarily a pro-level, super durable type of build, obviously, but for that price, you're getting quite a bit of value. Again, you can power many mirrorless cameras from the A6's battery, which is a kind of an interesting setup, and the A6 uses the ubiquitous and affordable Sony NP-F style batteries. So in my case here, I'm using an NP-F 970, which is one of the larger of this style of batteries, and it's working quite nicely. Screen, of course, is sharp and bright. Again, Full HD, and while it displays Full HD, it can actually take a 4K signal from your camera, so you don't have to worry about your camera doing the down converting. The monitor can do that for you. In the settings of the monitor, you can also flip the screen vertically, of course, but you can also flip it horizontally, which makes it a lot easier to work with as well. So if you have a preference for whether it's a mirror type of image or a kind of a standard image, you can get both of those. That mounting bracket is made out of all metal, and the little lever that you use to adjust the angle and tighten it up can be adjusted too, which is a nice little addition. There are also 1/4-20 taps on the top and the bottom of the monitor, which is useful if you want to mount it other ways other than the included brackets. So if you want to go with a more traditional set with a ball head, you can do that as well. Now with that Sony NP-F 970 battery, I was able to get 3 hours and 26 minutes powering both the monitor and my Panasonic GH5, and I had the Panasonic GH5 set to record the majority of that time, about 90% of the time. So we really kind of stress tested that battery, and that's a pretty respectable, actually that's quite good. I was surprised that it lasted that long, in fact, and definitely usable for a lot of shoots. There is also a 12-volt input, so you could potentially power this with larger external batteries if you wanted to. One of the things that I found frustrating with some small, inexpensive monitors in the past is the color doesn't match the cameras very well. This case is really nice. You actually can adjust the color and fine-tune it to match your camera's monitor. And in fact, that's exactly what I did here with my Panasonic GH5 using these particular settings. Now, I want to warn you, some people assume that you can just use the same settings if you're using the same camera. Maybe, maybe not. There is variation from unit to unit, so you can use this as a starting place if you are using a GH5. There is also a headphone jack on the bottom of the unit, so if your camera for some reason doesn't have a headphone jack, the monitor's got you covered. Now, in addition to using a monitor because it is a larger screen and it's easier to see, and not only is it easier to see, but from my point of view, it is also easier to compose a really good image if you can actually see it on a larger screen. There are so many things I miss on the smaller camera LCD monitors that I can definitely see on the bigger monitors. So in addition to that, there are all sorts of focus and exposure and composition tools. So that includes, in this particular case, focus peaking, false color, zoom, histogram, center marker, save frames, and zebras. And to make it easy to get into all those different modes, you have 4 programmable buttons up on top of the monitor. So again, you don't have to go menu diving to turn on your favorite settings. You can do that just with one of these buttons. Now, of course, there are some cons. Let's run through those really quickly. First of all, the surface of the screen is really quite reflective. And I think that you definitely need the hood. Fortunately, it comes with this hood, and this hood is quite effective. It's made out of a sort of really tough plastic material with some Velcro. You just Velcro it right to the top of the monitor. Very convenient, works nicely. Definitely something that you're going to need when you're shooting outdoors. And even then, it still can be a little bit tricky to see the screen, but I think it is still usable. Indoors, no problem at all. I did find on the copy that I had that the cold shoe mount was a little bit loose in the cold shoe on my Panasonic GH5. Wasn't a huge issue if you clamp it down with the nut that is on the bracket, which is all metal. It doesn't pose a problem, but it was a little disconcerting to see that it could, if you pushed on the monitor bracket arm hard enough, it did have a little bit of play. One thing I think is really important when you're considering purchasing gear is what kind of support policy do they have. Now, AndyCine appears to be just starting up, so there is no website just yet at the time of this recording, but you can get customer support by emailing cs@andycine.com. Now, we can keep dreaming. I was disappointed, although not surprised, to find that there's no waveform or vector scope on this particular monitor. I haven't seen that on any monitors in the sub $200 range yet. Someday, hopefully, we will get those, but for now, still not an option. Nevertheless, still got false color, which is probably my favorite exposure tool. So that's really good. Someday it'd be really great if we could get those on these monitors as well. Now, a couple of notes. These are not necessarily cons, but just things you need to know if you are looking into purchasing this monitor or any other monitor, to be entirely honest. Number one is latency. I think that the problem with latency is you will see latency. So as I move the camera back and forth here, you'll see that it takes a little bit longer for the monitor to respond versus the camera's monitor. What we're seeing here is the same issue that I see in pretty much every HDMI output camera. The latency appears to be in the camera as best I can tell, because I have never been able to find even a really high-end monitor that didn't have some latency when it was taking the signal via HDMI. So if you were planning on shooting some sort of high-speed sports or action, there is going to be some latency here, so that is something you'll need to take into consideration. I wish it were something the monitor manufacturers could fix, but it's not their problem. It's really, I think, on the camera end. So just so you're aware. Now, the second note I want to talk about is the build. The overall build quality is plastic, and if you drop this, it might survive the drop, it might not. I don't know. I haven't dropped mine, fortunately. So it is a little bit of a trade-off. It's very lightweight, which is good, but it is all plastic, so it's probably not going to be quite as durable as some other higher-end monitors. But again, at this price point, that's not unexpected. So an overall summary, I actually like this monitor quite a bit more than I expected. In fact, I have to hand it to Andy. Andy asked me to review this. He actually asked me to come and visit him at NAB. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to do that. He's been very persistent, and he was very kind to send this out to me for free to do this review, and I'm not getting paid beyond that to do this review. I actually like this monitor more than I expected, and what's interesting about it is the first 5.7-inch monitor I've used, that's actually a really nice size for keeping things very small and portable. And in fact, I took this on my first location shoot last weekend. I really liked it that it was so easy to get this into the bag. The picture quality is really nice. The ability to change the color to match your camera is very nice. It's very efficient in terms of overall battery usage, more efficient than most 7-inch monitors. So overall, it's a really nice package. I also really love that you can flip the monitor around to the front or the back. That makes it really useful for doing YouTube or vlog type shooting. So overall, just a really nice package for the $180 US, plus whatever it costs to get the dummy battery for your particular camera. Overall, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down below. Hope that was helpful for you. If you have not already subscribed, make sure you do that, and we'll be sure to get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and sound for video. And if you'd like to be notified each time a new video comes out, go ahead and click that bell icon. We'll talk to you soon.